Hi, Homeworthy. I'm Arian. Welcome to my home in North Carolina. I can't wait to show you around. Come on in.
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story. Thank you to Serena and Lily for sponsoring today's episode.
Hi, my name is Ariene Bethea. I am owner of Dressing Rooms Interior Studio, and you're in my home in Charlotte, North Carolina. We've been living in this house for 16 years. It's a new build, and I live here with my husband and my dog, Minnie. We moved here from Boston, Massachusetts 16 years ago when we had this home built. So the style of our home is what I would call the builder's version of a craftsman style. Inside, it's 3,100 square feet. We have 4 bedrooms, 3.5 baths, and we have what we use as a lounge, and which used to be my home office. And then we have a TV room where we watch movies because I really love movies. I'm a big Marvel fan. So Dressing Rooms Interiors is my vintage store. I sell vintage lighting, art, and decor. I started originally online with an Etsy shop and $300, and went to the largest yard sale and kind of just bought things that I thought were popular. I hadn't curated my style at that point, and so then as I started to sell, as I started to shop in antique stores and estate sales, I started to curate my eye. So the more you shop in those stores and flea markets, the better your eye gets. And so I started developing a style. And so I started purchasing pieces that I loved, just in case I had to keep them, if they didn't sell, I can incorporate them into my home. And so over the years, I sold on different sites before opening my own store, and then ultimately actually closed that store last year because I was selling more online. And so now I'm back full circle to back selling online. So it's been a wonderful journey. I've actually added my own line of lampshades, so those are coming out any moment. I'm waiting for the arrival of them, and so I'm really excited about that. So we've decorated the house in not really a style, but it's pieces that I've collected over the years, things that I've inherited from my grandmother and my mother, and so it's really a mix of vintage and new. Welcome to my entryway. One of the first pieces you'll notice in my entryway is this vintage hutch. It hides, or shall I say, displays my magazine collection. I love magazines. They give me tons of inspiration, and I have some vintage ones in here from the 1960s, and I also have some current ones. I would love to say that they're in order of date, but some are and some aren't. Also peppered in here are pieces I inherited from my grandmother and my mom that I really didn't have space for, so it makes a great display for those pieces as well. This piece used to live in my office, but now it lives here, and so I do actually use these magazines. I pull them out, I sit in my office, and I go through them. One of the things that I do learn every time I do that exercise is that nothing is new. Right? Everything has been done before, and it's just good to see how people used to do it back in the 60s and the 70s. In front of the hutch, I have this Maitland Smith mirror. It's a vintage piece. There's a lot of square lines going on here. I have this mirror above that's also square. And so this round element breaks up all the square elements going on here. So right when you come into my entryway is this tiger rug. It's actually, I had it custom sized for the space, and it's commercial grade. So doesn't matter what gets spilled on here. I've actually spilled paint on here, and it comes up really easily. So it also brings in all of like the animal motifs that I have going on in my home, and actually, you know, I kind of dress sort of like I design. Because of my time in New England, living in Boston, I love molding. So we have great picture molding. That was one of the things I added to the home was crown molding. We have double crown, and we also have picture molding below and, you know, throughout the space. So I love heavy moldings. I love color, particularly red, but this is a orangey red. It's called Salsa by Benjamin Moore, and I actually found it on a advertising kind of card for Benjamin Moore, and I wanted to use it in my space. And you'll see this color in another room that I used it in, and so I thought it'd be fun to pull this color from, it's in my powder room, it's also in the painting over my fireplace, and it's in draperies, and it's in art. So I've used this as kind of like a pull through in all of my spaces. And so I have this door painted and also my garage door painted the same color. So behind the door, I have a gong. It's a vintage gong that I hung back here. It's just a fun element. I mean, you can announce somebody's coming and hit the gong, but it's just a fun element that I thought would be appropriate behind the door. So we have a small entryway here, and so I have been able to use color and pattern to kind of give you a sense of what you're going to expect as you move through our home. So we have these drapery panels that were actually, I used those in a show house that I did, and they happened to actually work in the home. So that wasn't intentional. I just kind of love this colorway, and so I was able to use those here. And then these chairs are a part of some chairs that are in my home office. And so I was able to bring the pattern from the drapery again in the chairs and kind of give this space a punch, so to speak. Also in the entryway, there's not a lot of storage in the house. So I collect brass planters. And so I use the top of the hutch as a display for those. And so I use these. So I pull them down. I put ferns in them. I put different, flowering plants in them. I have a couple of vases that I use. So I use them, I put them back. So this is kind of working storage. I love using color and pattern in my home. And actually that's the first thing I selected when designing the home is the paint colors. So I wanted to figure out how the house would feel. And so that's kind of where I start with all my design projects is how do I want to feel in the space? And so the first thing I always select is the paint color. And then I build from there. It's been a really slow process of designing the home. I don't kind of just, pull out a magazine or a Pinterest board or anything and just kind of start plugging things in. I like to discover things and find things that work, find pieces that I love, find things when I'm traveling. So it's been literally 16 years of designing the home. So I would consider myself a soulful maximalist. I'm a really ruthless editor, because there's like a fine line for me between it feeling like a store and feeling layered. And so I really try to restrain myself from adding things. So if I'm adding, I'm subtracting. I do move things around all the time because my eye needs to see something new and different. I love fresh flowers, so there's always fresh flowers in the house. But I would say I am a maximalist. I love the layers of color and pattern and texture. And so, yes. So now I'd love to show you my home office. It is right off the entryway. Let's take a look. the first thing you'll notice is color, right? I told you I love color. And so the first thing I picked in here was the wall color. And it's Frambrose by Sharon Williams. I use all brands of paint. If I love the color, I will use the paint. And so what I wanted to do here is create an office that didn't really feel like an office. And so I wanted to be surrounded by inspiration, be surrounded by art. And so I have a shield here, which I jokingly call myself a huntress because I'm always on the hunt for vintage finds. And so that's here. I have some of my awards displayed here, some coffee table books that have been signed. And again, the drapery repeats itself here. So like I said, I love original art and vintage art, and this is a vintage piece. I can't remember the year of this one, but I saw this piece. I was on Instagram following the Makerista, and she was in an auction house in, I can't remember what state, Kansas. And she was doing kind of like a tour of what was going to be in the auction. And so this piece, not this very piece, but let's just say this piece showed up, and I was like, oh my God, because like I said, I was planning this space and I needed art, and I know I wanted a big piece that was going to go across these moldings, and I didn't know what it was going to be, and I wanted it to find me. I like things to find me. And so I saw that piece and I was like, oh my gosh, that would be perfect. I didn't know what I was going to put here, and I love the tension of the black and white against all these other patterns. Plus I love animals. And so fast forward, the auction happened. I totally forgot about the date because she was doing a preview. And maybe 3 weeks later, this piece showed up in a consignment shop here in Charlotte. And it was not the same. I actually I was interviewed by the Kansas City auction house. And they asked me, they were like, did you get that piece from us? And I said, no, it actually showed up here in Charlotte. So it's kind of serendipitous. I was supposed to have it. I was supposed to see it, and I was supposed to have it. So that's the story of that piece. So this space was originally supposed to be my dining room, but I needed a home office. And I've always imagined a banquette here. And so this banquette from Ballard Design was the perfect scale for this area. And I paired it with, this is my grandmother's table. And I didn't know what I was going to do with it. I had it in storage for about a year. It was in bad condition. And then I cleaned it and found this fabric, didn't have it, found the fabric, and it all kind of came together. Like I said, I like to find things or have things find me, and everything just kind of fell together for this space. So when I closed my shop, I had to incorporate some of the things from my shop office into my home office. And so one of the things is this bulletin board, which I keep all thank you notes. So if you've ever sent me a thank you note, it is here. I love them. I appreciate them. And so most of these are thank yous or congratulations or some sorts. And I have it mixed in with some inspiration pieces as well. So the favorite thing about my home, well, I'll say my favorite room is my home office. So my home office was actually a gift to myself. It's the only room that I actually planned for. So all the other spaces in the house kind of organically came together. This room I actually picked out paint color. This is the, banquette I'm using. This is the fabric. So it was actually a planned space, and I do love it. This credenza, I know I needed a storage piece in the space because hello, it's an office and I need to hide all the things. So this piece works really great. It's a Bernhardt piece. It's raffia. I love the color because it actually picks up the color of the banquette, and the chrome picks up the chrome from my grandmother's table. So it hides all matter of sins. And these are my grandmother's lamps. I was able to salvage those as well. And I had these custom shades made for them as well. The fabric I just found, it was a scrap piece of fabric. I didn't know what I was going to do with the fabric, but I found it and I love it. And so it worked it just happened to work in the space. So I bought this painting locally here at Slate Interiors, and it's I believe it's from like I want to say either 1967 or 1972. I can't see the date. I can't remember, but it's in that moody time period that I love. And it just so happens that it works. Like, this wasn't planned, but it happened that it works in this space. And I have this folding screen to hide a cabinet back there. I have a metal fireproof cabinet that has like all my taxes, all my information. And so this screen does a great job of kind of hiding all of that. So this is a piece from Morocco that I got, and we watched the artist make it. And so it's basically, it was a way that they used to send messages to each other, like hidden messages. And then he puts it over a fire, and then the image appears. And so we watched him make these pieces. And so that was really cool. So I brought that back with me from there. And then I have these pieces from my grandmother. This is also from my grandmother, this vase. And, you know, I have my business cards, and then I have sort of current magazines that I'm looking at as well. In this curio, we have pieces from my shop. So these are some of the breakables that I kind of have in my office. Also, some of the things that I love to look at, and some pieces that I got recently in Morocco that I have not shared yet. So there's a mix of those in here. And then above, that's a piece from my grandmother. This piece used to hang over my checkout stand at my shop. And these are some awards that I've gotten over the years. And so this right here is a dim sum cart. And I always thought it would be fun. I always imagine it as a office caddy, which is what I'm using it for. So here I was like, oh, you can put envelopes here, you know, pens and, you know, staplers here, and then office supplies here, and it had a drawer for paper. And it's also portable, so you can move it around. So I really love this as kind of a modern office caddy. I have a blue ceiling because the sky's always blue, and there's always, you know, an upside to things. And so I like to have the ceiling blue. So this piece it's an original piece by an artist named Erica Michelle. She's a local artist. And the interesting story behind it is that she came into my shop and she kept running and bumping into this glass table, a coffee table I had. And she apologized and then explained to me that she had gone blind, and that she started painting as therapy. And so I asked her to see, I said, well, can you show me some of your art? And so she showed me some pieces, and I was blown away. And she had never shown anyone her art before. And I told her, we have to do a show for you. And so I did a show for her at the shop, and we sold out her first 2 collections. And this is part of her second collection. And now she sells on all sorts of sites in her website, and we've become friends. The inspiration behind this room was I was featured in Essence magazine a number of years ago, and like 2021. And this was the gift to myself to redo my office. Now I've had like 5 different variations of this room, and it's always kind of been kind of makeshift. And so this time I wanted to really put some time and attention into the space, and some real thought behind it. And this is kind of what I came up with. So what I like to tell people, especially clients that are trying to figure out their personal sense of style, and also to figure out kind of maybe a color palette or somewhere to start, is to look in your closet. So I'll have a client go in and look at, pull 3 to 5 items, jewelry, shoes, a bag, or a piece of clothing that you absolutely love. And then I can find, doing that, I can find the pattern. I can find the pattern of the things that you like. Maybe it's a floral, maybe you really like texture, maybe there's a color pattern that I see a line through all the items, and maybe you can see that too. That's one kind of quick way to figure out your style and your color. So now I'd love to show you my bar. It's right off my home office, and the cool thing about this is this piece used to be my checkout stand at my shop. And so my husband really loved the piece, and he was like, you have to find a place for it. And so voila, place for it. And so this houses all our barware. We have a little stool here. This is a vintage piece that I had painted in this color, not to match anything here. It just happens that it does because I buy things I love and I paint things in colors that I love. And so this little roll top serves as a little serving area, I guess you can say, for our glassware. And it has like a tortoiseshell top. And so the interesting part about this little area is this piece of art. And so I found this at an antique market, and it had a different picture in there. I think it was a print, but I bought it for the frame. And I didn't know what I was going to do with it. I didn't have a place for it. And it was in my garage. And then we were having to clean out the garage. This piece fell over, but we weren't even touching it, but it fell over and the glass broke. And so my husband was taking the glass out and discovered this woman behind it, this black woman behind it. It was like she wanted to be seen. Like she was saying, hey, I'm behind here. And so I thought that was beautiful. And I said, oh, let's put the spirits with the spirit. So this is kind of how this kind of area happened. So coming off our bar area, you walk into our family room where first I have added this storage because we didn't have any storage in the house, as I said before. So that's why I have like credenzas and pieces everywhere. And so I had this piece built in our walkway. I wanted it to be deep enough for me to put my vases and all my candles, because I have a lot of candles and a lot of vases. But also I wanted it to be narrow enough that it wasn't intrusive into our walkway. And it also gave me great options for display because I love coffee table books and also all my faces. And so I have here things that I've collected over the years, faces and animals and all sorts of things. I also love photography. So in addition to art, original art, I love photography. And so I have that displayed here and also here as well. I love sculpture because it adds dimension to a room. And so I've had this piece at an estate sale. I recently picked this up in Morocco, so it was like the perfect pairing, a belly dancer sash around a woman. And this piece also in Morocco, it's a Benin statue, which I was able to trace my lineage back to parts of Benin. And so this has been dying to find a piece. So I brought that back. And then this cabinet I got off a marketplace. I think it was Craigslist years ago. And a woman was from California. And in here I have like different wines. So when people come to our house, they bring us wine. We're not big drinkers, but we have a full bar because people bring us things all the time when we host. So back here is all of kind of our wine collection. So I love flowers, always have fresh flowers in the house. I worked at a florist when I was in high school. And so I saw this piece and thought it would be great here over this entry. And then I love juju hats, and so I had this one custom colored, and so it's from Cameroon, and it's a tribal headdress. And I also have another one over our TV. So this piece is from my mom, so I remember this one. This is from an antique market, this one as well, and also this one. So there's a lot of mixture of like African and Asian themes throughout the house, and I inherited that from my mom. She had a lot of Asian and African influences in our home, and so I apparently picked that up as well. I'm a collector of busts and faces, but you'll also see a lot of animal motifs around the house. So there's elephants and there's tigers and there's zebras all throughout the house. So I don't know where that came from. There's actually dogs as well. I love animals as well. So I love them, and the patterns, and I love their faces and expressions. So those are also displayed throughout my house. So coming into the living room, this is where we relax. We watch TV, watch movies. I'm a news junkie and also Marvel. There's always an element of surprise in a space. I love to ask, like, why this thing? And this is one of those things. So I buy what I love, and I love this Tibetan statue. Had no clue what I was going to do with it. Zero. But I had it strapped in the car like a person, and I brought it home, and I tried it in a bunch of different places, and it didn't work. And then I remembered I had these pedestals, and I put it here. And then a couple months later, I was at an antique store that was going out of business, and they had a Tibetan hat. What are the chances? And I didn't know what I was going to do with that either, but I loved it and I bought it. And I put it on top of him. And then I just dressed him up, and like, it's a moment. It's like my favorite little, decorative moment here. So I just wanted to share that. My other favorite piece is this painting that hung in our living room when I was growing up. And this is where I pull a lot of the color. So the front door color, I pulled it from here, and you'll see it sprinkled throughout the house. It's also a color that's in my powder room, and you see this color again in my home office as well. So this is a really expansive space, and so there was dead space above the fireplace, and I found this mirror actually at Goodwill, and I thought it'd be perfect up here to draw your eye up to illustrate how tall the space is. And so I had my husband put it up there. I wasn't going up there, but I had him put it up there. Now, my husband loves my use of color and pattern. We actually went to a store the other day, and it was all like grays and taupes and beiges. And he was like, is that all they sell? Or do they have things online? They don't have any color in there. So he's like really used to spaces with color. And so he loves it. He loves that I move things around, and he loves our home. So this coffee table is from Bernhardt. I really wanted a round element in the space so that you can walk around it without sharp edges. And I wanted to bring in more gold. There's touches of gold throughout, so I wanted to bring that in as well. And it's generous enough on the top that allows me to display my coffee table books, more animal motifs, flowers, and all the things. So I used ottomans in the space to pull in color, to pull the color down onto the floor. And so these are vintage ottomans that I've had recovered in different fabrics. This fabric is actually the same fabric that is in my home office, so that kind of ties that in as well. And then this is in a colorway that is similar to the painting. So I'm just trying to bring the color down onto the floor so that it's all kind of dispersed throughout the room. I like TV. I'm not ashamed of it. I don't need to hide it. This TV is actually really old. We bought this TV when we first moved in. It still works, and I'm not getting rid of it until it dies. But and so I surrounded it with art. Actually, this is photography from our honeymoon in Hawaii. So I took these pictures, and I had them blown up of these trees that were on the beach that I was mesmerized by because I can walk under the roots. And then and I just displayed it amongst some vintage art. That's a juju hat. That's an Indonesian piece. That mask, and then this is a vintage picture of bamboo. So just to balance out the television. The chairs are custom vintage slipper chairs in a cotton mohair. And I got these pillows from Swank Interiors, which is in Charlotte. And they've moved around. Like I've had them in my bedroom, and then I've moved them out here because I like to move my things around. And so these work really well because I don't have a lot of space, and they don't have any arms, and they're generous. The seating is generous for them. So I found the side tables at a consignment store, and I had them turned into lamps. Now, they were originally for sale. Even the woman at the lamp store wanted to buy them. And I brought them home, which is a no-no, just to see them. And I fell in love with them. And my husband saw them and was like, why are you selling them? You should keep them. And so, voila, I kept them. And I also had custom tortoiseshell shades made for them. And so, yes, so I ended up keeping the lamps, and I love them. So for my personal sense of style, I'm really influenced by the 1960s era. I love the women from that era. I love the clothing. I love the furniture. It's actually one of my favorite periods of art, which I discovered as I've been collecting, that usually the pieces that I love that are abstract or oils are from the 1960s. So that's really, I love that period. So as you can see, our family room is very open concept, and it leads right into our dining room, which we used a round dining table because that's the best use of space for that. And we also have this area right off of it where we kick off our shoes because it's really near our entryway for the garage. And so this is kind of where we take our shoes off and put our bags at. And the feature wall here are these African masks. And the fun story behind these are, a friend of mine knows that I love to collect masks, and there was a collector that was getting rid of their collection. And I reached out to them and set up a time to go meet them, and I got pneumonia. And my husband had to go in my place, and he went, and him and the couple spent the entire day together. Like, they loved each other. The collector was downsizing, and their children didn't want the mask anymore, or just didn't want the mask. And so what he had done is, behind each mask is labeled with the date and the country that they were at when they found the mask. They traveled all throughout the continent of Africa and picked up different masks. And so originally I was going to sell these because, you know, I sell things, but my husband loved them. And I loved the story behind it. They wanted him to spend the night and stay for dinner and all the things. And but I ended up keeping them and displaying them here. So here on my left, we have a buffet, which you'll notice it's the same material, the raffia that's in my office, and it's perfect for a buffet for dining. So I can remove all these things when we're having a dinner party. But otherwise, it serves as display for my pieces. And in here, I would love to say that there's china, but there's actually mail and gloves and electronics and all the things that need to be hidden because, again, we don't have a ton of storage in our space. So it's a very functional piece for the dining room. Again, I have more faces displayed. This piece is from my grandmother. So it's a ashtray, but it's I think it's a Batasi ashtray. My grandmother didn't smoke, which is funny, but I have a ton of different kind of ashtrays that I inherited from her, and I have a lot of books about Black women and photography, and so I have, you know, one of those displayed here, and then again the African and the Asian influences can be seen in the mask that I collect here. And this particular mask is from an artist in Canada that I just happened to find on Etsy. I was looking for something else and came across this artist, and so ended up purchasing a piece from him. So again, I love, like I said, faces. And this one I got at an estate sale. There was like a moment in my collecting that I was like, I need to find more busts. And then more busts started to find me. And so I love this piece. I think it was on a pedestal, and it wasn't a solid pedestal. It wasn't sturdy. So I just took it off and I just kind of laid her here. And this is where she's been for a number of years, because I've moved her around, but I just really just love the simplicity of her just being right here. I am not the table setter host, okay? I don't do these elaborate tables. I'm more of a buffet. Like, I'll have all of the things out for you and you kind of serve yourself. I am not, although I appreciate a well decorated table, that is not, that is not my forte. So when someone walks into my home, I want them to feel relaxed, but I also want them to feel inspired. They should also see there's a lot to look at. So there's a lot of travel that we've done over the years. And so there's a lot of pieces from our travel, from collections, coffee table books and things. So they'll really get to know what we're interested in, because I purchased the types of books that, art and decor, photography. I really love photography. So you'll see photography around the house. We have a lot of original art, which is vintage art. Some I inherited from my mom, some I purchased on my own. And so they should feel that it's a very personal space. So now we're gonna head into the kitchen. The kitchen didn't originally look like this. We had it redone about a couple of years ago, I think in 2022, 2021. It was maple cabinets. I had them painted in this black color. I had new backsplash attic, countertops, and faucet and sink. And so it had a little bit of a facelift and new lighting as well. What I added to the kitchen that I kind of love is I added photos of my mom and my uncle and my great grandfather. So, because I really love to cook, and so I feel like they're cooking with me. I don't have a lot of other photos of family displayed around the home, but I kind of concentrated them here so that they're with me when I'm in the kitchen and I'm cooking and using their recipes. And so that's kind of a special point for me in the kitchen. So above the stove, I added a little piece of art. I love like unexpected places where you find art. And so I added this piece. It was actually in my office in my shop, and it's protected by glass. So if anything spills or anything, from this cooking pops on it, it's just fine. This used to be closed storage, and then we added the glass for display. And so some of these are from wedding gifts when we got married, and then that's pottery, that's original pottery. And then I have some of my favorite tchotchkes here from my mom and my grandmother, and then here are dishes that we use daily, and then some vases along the top that I pull out when I have a lot of flowers. I don't have a signature dish, but I love like ethnic foods. So I'm mainly cooking, I have like a Moroccan dish that I cook. I have Italian dishes, Mexican dishes. So I'm really like all over the place as far as like types of foods that I cook. I'm not frying chicken. I don't do that. So right off of the kitchen, we have our powder room, which I decided to infuse with color. It's my little jewel box. And so, again, you'll see that color, that salsa from Benjamin Moore. This is where I decided to use it and got the inspiration to paint the door. And I have a gallery of art. Some I've collected, some are prints, and some are from my mom, some from my grandmother. And so they're all kind of displayed here. It's a fun little space that people aren't expecting when they come into the powder room. I also added this custom sink skirt that bring in some more color. And it's the same pattern that you'll find in my office, in the chairs. So it kind of brings that pattern through. And so it's just it's a really fun space. The word home means refuge. It means my place of peace and serenity. It's like a warm blanket. It's where I can be myself, where I'm surrounded by things I love, around my ancestors, because I've inherited so many of the pieces in my home from my family. So it's just That's what home means to me.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to go to homeworthy.com for exclusive content, shopping guides, and so much more.